This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today that this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a rating and a brief written review? It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Today I want to talk about leading in uncertain times. Now we think the day and age that we're living in is perhaps one of the greatest and most uncertain of all times, but there have been uncertain times all along throughout life. And so the very first thing we need to know is that there are some things that are unknown. We have no idea what's coming, how it's going to work out, what the answer is going to be. But before you get into all of that, and we get into all of that, always remember there are always things that are under your control. For instance, the present. We can show up today. We can do what needs to be done today. We have no control over all of the things that happened in the past. If there are things we need to correct, we can do that, but you can't go back and correct it in the past. You can only correct it right now in the present. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. You're going to have to live in the present. In the uncertain times is right now is all we have, and we have to pay attention. The other thing is, it seems that whenever we go through a time that is somewhat challenging and difficult, and at least from our perspective, not something that happens very often, we get the feeling that we're the only ones that have ever gone through this, and that it almost seems like we're being singled out or picked upon. And one of the things you need to remember as you're beginning to lead in uncertain time is this: we're all in this together. Everyone, or nearly everyone in the world, is going through these kinds of difficult things. We're in this together. Now, unless you're just a brand new rookie and this is your first time to be in a leadership situation, you have to keep reminding yourself, hey, I've been through tough times before. There have been challenges I have faced throughout my life. There have been other times, pretty much just like I'm experiencing right now, when I have to wonder and contemplate, am I going to make it? Are we all going to survive this? Are we individually, as families, as an organization, are we going to get through all this? And here's what I want you to do. Just stand up straight, throw your shoulders back, look in the mirror, and remind yourself, there have been many times in your life when you wondered the very same thing. Look in the mirror. You're still here. You're still in the game. And you're still moving forward. Now, I think another thing that we need to remind ourselves, regardless of the challenge, regardless of how uncertain the day and age may be, that there's something for us to do. There's work that needs to be attended to right this very moment. What you and I learn when we go through really challenging times and difficult situations and circumstances, we learn how to be resourceful. Even when we didn't know how we were going to get through something before, somehow, some way, we found the right person, we found the resources, we improvised, we maybe oftentimes had to redo some things, but we made it through. And one of my favorite words right now is resilience. These kinds of situations that you and I are going through, these will help to create within us a spirit of resilience. Now, the other thing, when you gather your team together, and your team may be just a little volunteer group you meet with, a little small group, could be your family, could be your colleagues at work, it could be those in some organization where you're leading it, just remember this. We're going to work on what we know needs to be worked on. We're going to face what we're facing, and we're going to work our way through it. And as more becomes apparent, as some other things get revealed, we will figure it out, work it out as we go along. The good news is you don't have to solve everything today. You can figure things out along the way as it comes, as it transpires, and as it happens. I've found that uncertain times are good times to just double your effort in that I am still committed. It may be that you need to not just communicate that for the people around you. You may need to be communicating that. So in fact, you hear that message. I'm committed. I'm going to see it through. I'm still supposed to be here. I'm still supposed to be doing the things that I feel are vital and important. And one of the greatest questions you can ask is simply this. Well, we're going to have to figure out what we do next, but right now we're going to do that which is right now apparent that we need to do. Now, those are a few of the things that even in the most uncertain of times are absolute givens and things we have some control over and we need to start working on. Well, one of the reasons times are so uncertain is there are some unknowns. There are some large unknowns. One of the largest unknowns that any of us face is the future. Regardless of what's happening today, what's transpired, we don't know what the future holds. I love getting emails from people who say 6 ways to increase your crowd, to increase your business, to increase your finances post-COVID. Well, first of all, they, like everyone else, are making a guess and an estimation. Now, it may be a really good guesstimation. It may be backed up with some serious research. I'm not faulting that. But unless they're clairvoyant, no one exactly knows what all is going to happen to any of us in the future. And I would say it really just boils down to this. At this point, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen to governments, to banks, to finances, to business. We don't know. And so really, what I'm trying to get you to think is, it's not your job to fix the future. Focus on what you have control over, which is today. It's not your job to sit down, pull out a scratch pad and a pen, or an iPad and a keyboard, and you figure out and solve the problem of what's going to happen next, because we don't know, and that's really not what we need to be doing. I mean, there are lots of things I don't have control. I have no control over what the weather's going to be next month. I have no control over what a politician is going to say in a week or two. We just don't know. So those are the unknowns. So let's spend less time worrying and concocting strategies for the unknown. And let's just sort of focus on what we do know something about. Here we are in the present. We're all in this together. We've been through difficult times before. We have made it. We have lived through it. We have lived to tell the story because we're here. And we've learned to be resourceful when we face difficult times, and we are committed, and we're going to keep focusing on what. So, focus on what you can control. I've already mentioned it. You can control your response. Don't just go through life being a reactor, letting people get a rise out of you. Learn to control your response. You can't control some things, but you can control your attitude, because your attitude today is what it is because that's how you've trained and that's how you've rewarded yourself. So get a hold of your attitude. You have control out of getting out of bed every morning and making the actions and taking the steps and doing the things that's going to move the ball forward and going to put you in a better position. You have control over your language and the things you say. Quit talking defeat. Quit talking discouragement. And if you are terribly discouraged, which is okay, every one of us, including Dr. Ron, gets discouraged. But read yourself, pray yourself, talk yourself back into a positive attitude. You control your actions. What you are going to do, you have control. Step up, take ownership, take responsibility. When things are tough, more than ever, An organization and people need a leader who will lead. Don't let uncertainty knock you down and knock you out. It's okay to acknowledge fear. You've never been through this. We're not sure exactly. But don't just live with it and don't just increase it, or as some people might say, just don't feed it. It's a time to be courageous. If you're a person of faith, trust God. Be courageous in your convictions. Be confident. What I'm discovering that really happens in these times is, for some of us, and I am at the head of the list, I like to have routines. I like to feel that I have a sense of control of things. And when you live in an uncertain time, if it teaches you anything, it teaches you that you and I are not the master of our own destiny and we don't control the world. And oftentimes things just have to happen. And so what has been a challenge for me down through the years is I've had to learn to improvise. Don't have everything you need. Don't just sit down and cry and complain and quit and say, what's the use? Learn how to improvise. Find a way to get around it. Find a workaround. If you don't have the money, you don't have the people, you don't have the resources, find a way to improvise. Maybe it would do good for all of us to have to give an impromptu speech to sort of begin to exercise our improvisation muscles. Everything doesn't go according to plan. You have to learn to improvise. I would say the other thing, another couple of things we need out of leaders, especially in uncertain times, is we need our leaders to stay humble. Now, I've already said you have control and we have to push forward, and all of that is true. But it's all right letting people know, I don't have all the answers, but here's what we know today, and here's what we can work on today, and let's do it. And as we learn more, and as more is revealed, we'll keep pushing forward. If we have to go another direction, if we have to do something different, that'll be all right. It's great to have a leader in uncertain times who has a sense of humility. It's also great in uncertain times to have a leader who is self-aware. The saddest person to lie to is when we lie to ourselves. Are you aware? If you're a fearful person, then you're going to need to get yourself in a position where you can get victory. Be self-aware. Realize that if you get hysterical and you get fearful, it will be like the flu or pneumonia. It will be contagious. During uncertain times, perhaps more than any other time, we need our leaders to be visible. A desk is a dangerous place from which to view the world. You need to be out with the troops. You need to be out with the people. You need to let them know that no matter how uncertain it is, you're here, you're with them. We're going to work on this together. We're going to roll up our sleeves, and together we're going to make a difference. Be visible. It's all right to show your vulnerabilities, to say, you know, just like you, my friends, I have never been in just this kind of a situation. But perhaps this is a time to tell a story, and I'm not talking about a made-up story. I'm talking about a story from your life. It reminds me of a time when I didn't know how we were going to get through this. I did not know how we would make it out, and we made it. And I was afraid then, and we pushed through, and we controlled what we could control, and we had to trust and leave it in the hands of the divine, and we had to move forward. I think one other thing that we must say when we're going through a great time of uncertainty is don't throw your values overboard. Do not abandon your values. Your values are those anchors that have to hold you steady when the winds are blowing and the storms are howling and the rain is pouring down and everything seems to be coming apart. It is at those times, if for no other reason, we really understand what we value, what's important, what are non-negotiables, what are absolutes that we will not abandon for convenience or fear or any other reason. We need leaders in uncertain times to be visible, to be vulnerable, and And tell people, we don't have it all figured out, but we're going to work at it day by day. And regardless of what happens, these are the things that we value. You're a needed leader. You're needed always, but you're especially needed in the difficult days that are happening all around us. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't compromise. Don't quit. Stay in the game. Be the leader you are meant to be, even in these uncertain times. You have been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this has been like a vitamin and a supplement for your mind and heart, and wherever you receive podcasts from. Would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review, pass the word on to your friends. If you do these things, it will help other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really, truly are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.